Victoria Sterling had built her reputation on precision. As the CEO of Sterling Arts Foundation, she oversaw one of the nation's most prestigious concert halls, where world-class musicians performed for audiences who paid hundreds of dollars, for the privilege of perfect acoustics and flawless presentations. This evening, she stood in the ornate lobby of Carnegie West, as their venue was known, wearing her signature navy business suit, her platinum blonde hair pulled back in an elegant chignon. The symphony had just finished their final rehearsal for tomorrow night's gala performance, and the musicians were packing their instruments with the quiet efficiency of seasoned professionals. "Excuse me, ma'am." Victoria turned to see the evening custodian approaching. Marcus Rodriguez was a man in his late 40s, his weathered hands speaking of years of honest work. He wore the building's standard blue coveralls and a backward baseball cap, his dark beard neatly trimmed despite the late hour. In his gloved hands, he held a cleaning cloth, having just finished polishing the brass railings. The musicians left. "One of their violins behind?" Marcus said, his voice respectful but confident. "I was wondering if I should lock it in the office safe." Victoria glanced toward the stage where, indeed, a violin case sat forgotten beside the conductor's podium. "Yes, that would be appropriate," she replied curtly, already mentally moving on to her next task. But Marcus didn't immediately head toward the instrument. Instead, he hesitated, looking toward the empty concert hall with something that resembled longing. "Beautiful venue," he said quietly. "Perfect acoustics. I've been cleaning here for 3 years, and I still get chills when I hear the music echo through those halls." Something in his tone made Victoria pause. There was knowledge in his words, an understanding that went deeper than casual appreciation. "You seem to know something about music," she observed. Marcus nodded, a small smile crossing his face. "I played a little back in the day. Before—" He gestured vaguely, and Victoria understood. Before life had taken him down a different path, as it did for so many people. "What did you play?" she found herself asking, though she wasn't sure why. "Violin mainly? Some piano?" Marcus's eyes drifted toward the stage again. "Haven't touched one in years, though." Victoria felt a familiar skepticism rise within her. She'd encountered many people who claimed musical ability, few who actually possessed it at the level her venue demanded. Almost without thinking, she heard herself say, "If you can play Bruch, the hall is yours." She meant it as a dismissal, really. Bruch's Violin Concerto No. 1 was a piece that separated serious musicians from weekend hobbyists. It required not just technical skill, but emotional depth, the kind of musical maturity that took years to develop. Marcus looked at her for a long moment, and something shifted in his expression. The deference was still there, but underneath it, Victoria glimpsed something else. Pride, perhaps, or maybe just the quiet confidence of a man who had nothing left to prove to anyone but himself. "The G minor?" he asked simply. Victoria nodded, surprised he knew the distinction. "The G minor." Without another word, Marcus walked toward the stage, his work boots echoing softly on the polished wooden floors. Victoria followed, drawn by a curiosity she couldn't quite name. The few remaining musicians in the hall looked up as the custodian approached the forgotten violin case. Marcus removed his gloves carefully, placing them in his pocket along with the cleaning cloth. His movements were deliberate, reverent even, as he opened the case and lifted the instrument. It was a beautiful violin, not a Stradivarius, but certainly professional quality. He tested the strings briefly, making minor adjustments with the practiced ease of someone who had done this countless times before. The small sounds of tuning seemed to fill the vast space, and Victoria noticed that conversations in the hall had quieted. Then Marcus positioned the violin against his shoulder, and something extraordinary happened. His entire posture changed. The weariness that came from years of physical labor seemed to fall away, replaced by the poised elegance of a born musician. The first notes of Bruch's concerto filled the air, tentative at first, as if Marcus were remembering not just the music, but some essential part of himself. But within moments, the tentative quality vanished, replaced by something that made Victoria's breath catch in her throat. This wasn't just competent playing. This was artistry. The melody soared through the concert hall, each note placed with the kind of precision that spoke of years of training, years of dedication. But more than technical skill, there was something else in Marcus's playing. A depth of emotion that seemed to draw from wells of experience that privileged musicians rarely accessed. Victoria found herself sinking into one of the plush red seats, transfixed. Around her, the few remaining people in the hall had stopped what they were doing to listen. Even the symphony musicians, packing their instruments, had paused to appreciate what they were hearing. As Marcus moved into the more challenging passages of the concerto, Victoria realized she was witnessing something remarkable. This man, who cleaned their halls and emptied their trash bins, was playing with a level of musicianship that belonged on their main stage. The music spoke of dreams deferred but not forgotten, of dignity maintained in the face of circumstances, beyond one's control. It spoke of the universal language that transcends social boundaries and job titles, the language of the human heart expressed through perfectly placed notes. When the piece concluded, the silence that followed was the kind that only comes after truly transcendent performances. It was Marcus who broke it, gently returning the violin to its case with the same reverence he had shown in lifting it out. "Thank you," he said simply, looking toward Victoria. "I haven't had the chance to play like that in a very long time." Victoria found her voice, though it came out softer than usual. "Where did you study?" "Juilliard," Marcus replied matter-of-factly. "Full scholarship. Graduated 15 years ago." The words hung in the air like notes from his performance. Victoria felt something shift inside her chest, a recognition of assumptions challenged and prejudices confronted. "What happened?" she asked, though she immediately wondered if the question was too personal. Marcus shrugged, but not dismissively. "Life happened. My daughter was born with special needs. Medical bills, therapy costs. Performing doesn't pay the bills the way steady work does. My wife and I, we made choices." He smiled, and there was no bitterness in it. Good choices. Necessary choices. Victoria stood slowly, processing what she had just witnessed and learned. Here was a man who had sacrificed his artistic dreams for family responsibility, who cleaned buildings to provide for his daughter's needs, and who had just demonstrated that true musicianship doesn't disappear simply because circumstances change. "The hall is yours," she said finally, and this time the words carried none of the challenge they had before. "I meant what I said. Anytime you want to practice, after hours, consider it an open invitation." Marcus's smile was worth more than any standing ovation Victoria had ever witnessed in her concert hall. "I'd like that very much," he said. As they walked together toward the exit, Victoria realized that Marcus had given her something invaluable that evening. He had reminded her why music mattered, why venues like hers existed not for profit or prestige, but for the moments when art transcends everything else and speaks directly to the soul. "Marcus," she called, as he prepared to continue his custodial duties. "Would you consider playing in our holiday benefit concert next month? It's for families with children who have special needs." The question surprised them both, but as soon as Victoria asked it, she knew it was exactly right. Marcus's eyes brightened. "I'd be honored." And as the custodian returned to his work and the CEO headed home for the evening, both carried with them the memory of music that had bridged two very different worlds, proving that sometimes the most beautiful performances happen when we least expect them. The end